the other person could have, let's say, a red mark or a scratch. Hey everyone, this is David Colmeyer, the Problem Solver. Thanks so much for joining us today. Today on the Problem Solver, we're going to be talking about some community problems and issues and things that are going on. And we have today Beja, co-host here. Lovely Beja, how are you?
Good. How are you, Dave?
And then we have Mr. Good Looking. We have Danny Miner over here.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking good today. I'm trying to make sure this microphone's going okay here. It seems like it keeps dingling down here, but we're going to make it work here. Okay, so anyway. I'm David Colmeyer, the Problem Solver, a retired police officer for 17 years. Every single week we have different people that come on the show or ourselves on the show talking about some different problems in general. Today, we wanted to talk about there's some things going on in Vegas happening right now, like the NFL draft. We have some use of force issues going on throughout the United States, talking about police in general, and talk a little bit about Twitter with Elon Musk and some different topics in general. So I felt it'd actually be a good time to talk about these different issues. As usual, as the Problem Solver, I was a cop for 17 years, and Danny was a police officer for 27 years, and Beja's been around the block for a long time as well. We all basically have some different views and opinions, so I actually thought that, it's great to talk about these different topics. But I wanted to just mention again, as the Problem Solver, we have an app called the ProblemSolver.Vegas, and if you're watching it and viewing it, you can look on your screen. If you look on the screen, we have several different templates on the side, little tabs. If you have a problem, you click on where it says a problem, and you go to a template where it says what kind of problem that you have. So if you have been arrested, if you got into a car accident, if you've been injured, you need an attorney for whatever reason, or you need a job, or you need a certain nonprofit, you can click on the different templates there and let us know your name, phone, email, whatever you want to share with us. And then myself or another problem solver will give you a call back and refer you to the right place. We do have a lot of different people that have a lot of different experiences. Recently, I will share with you, actually, I used to share some different topics, which we could actually talk about it today. Some people call me with some different issues, and we could always be confidential and say what Beja would do. And I actually have a topic that I just thought of it. Someone referred me a case recently, and they needed some help. So I use my police background and experience to help people. But then if it comes to be a legal matter, then I'm referring them to an attorney. So it's not always about using an attorney, but sometimes using the police background experience to share what I would do. I think is very helpful. Just like when I was a cop in the street, we used to always share, what someone should do in general. It wasn't always a police matter. We weren't always arresting people in general. So with that being said, the ProblemSolver.Vegas is an app. You can put it onto your home screen. You can use it. You could also call 702-999-1111. The police is 911, and the Problem Solver is 999-1111. You can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you got a problem, myself or another Problem Solver will answer the phone, and we will try to see what we can do to help you out. And like I said, if you need help, our goal is to help you, refer you to the right place to make things happen for you. But anyway, so let's just jump into today. Real quickly, for NFL, and I'm not a big sports guy. I know Danny is. Danny, tell us what's going on with the NFL going on right now.
Well, the NFL draft's tonight in Las Vegas, which is a big thing for the city. I mean, it's huge. I mean, people celebrate the draft. They have parties for the draft. It's a huge thing, especially being from the Philly area in Pennsylvania. The Philadelphia Eagle fans are probably all sitting in front of their TV waiting to see who they're going to draft tonight. But for Vegas, it brings a lot of people here. I heard today that we're going to have over 200,000 more people on the Strip tonight, and they're shutting it down. So I'm hoping Metro has a big police presence down there. I'm hoping anyway.
I went the other day, and there was a lot of cops. Maybe they were getting prepared. Right. But 200,000 is a lot of people. I wonder what the number is for, be interesting to look up now July 4th and right. New Year's Eve, how many people in general. We always talk about safety in general. What are your thoughts in regards to safety? I mean, Beja, would you feel safe 200,000 people all over the place? I mean, do you feel comfortable in those settings?
No, not really. A lot happens in big crowds, and especially lately, so not really, honestly.
I always think in Boston with the marathon, with that terrorist attack that took place in Boston, again, there's a movie in regards to it as well. It's always like a movie at the end, right? But how do you prevent that? I guess it just makes me a little bit nervous these days, especially surviving 9/11 and other terrorist attacks that have taken place. I guess I'm hoping Metro basically has got it covered, but you only need one person that's crazy to do something crazy,
Yeah, I agree. And we had the worst mass shooting in America's history here in Las Vegas. So, I mean, that's scary right off. You know, Dave, when you had a big incident in New York City like this, I mean, a big thing coming like the draft, police prepare for it. They prepare for weeks in advance. So they have a plan. Believe me, they didn't just say, hey, everybody show up that day. There's a plan in place in case there's an emergency. So I'm sure, Las Vegas Metro Police have that plan. But I'm sure it's going to be extra police because this is going to be huge tonight for Las Vegas. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere near the Strip tonight. Nowhere near it.
All right. So in regards to safety, I mean, hopefully Metro's got the thing covered in general. And then people, where they're going to be partying until 4 a.m. once they find out what players get selected to certain teams, right?
Right.
All right. The
Do
other...
you have people coming in from California?
They have people coming in from everywhere. Because believe it or not, the stage is at the Bellagio Fountains. It's actually on the fountains. Yeah, it's
crazy. But this is the first time that took place, right? They've done it before there?
They were gonna, but then the
pandemic. There was a concert there before. I saw Drake perform on the water before.
Yeah, I agree with you, yeah. But we were going to have the draft during the pandemic, and then they canceled it. Gotcha. So that's why Vegas has it in 2022.
I remember seeing like something in regards to they were building it on the water. Right. But this is the first time they're officially doing that on the waterfall.
For the draft, yeah. Okay. But I think Beja's right. I think they had a concert there. I'm pretty sure on fountains. Years ago, just to share a sidebar, I remember like for marketing purposes, I always thought they should have like a gold jet ski and that you should be able to ride around the fountains. The fountains. And I thought it'd be like a cool, they always had these different excursions and stuff like that. Hey, they're taking down the volcano. I passed by the other
Treasure Island.
Yeah, by Mirage, Treasure Island. Yeah.
Is that definitely that's taking place?
That's what they're saying. Yeah, it's gone. I mean, that's an icon.
I passed by the other day. Actually, I was with the kids, and we saw the fire go, and I think I have to like drive over there so they could see it. Especially if it's to be gone. Yeah, to see it for like one more time. Yeah, it's kind of history.
I'll do that with Ilani too, but I mean, up and onward, right? New things. That's some Stone Age shit. Sure, right, that's true. You're right. And now Hard Rock's coming in. They're gonna have a big guitar out there and stuff like that. So it'll make the strip look cool.
It's probably been there 30 years. I mean, I'm here 20.
Probably.
Isn't there a globe being made as well?
They're making a globe. Yeah, that's behind, oh gosh, I don't even know. It's down by the Westgate. You know where the Westgate is?
Palazzo.
That's where that area.
Plaza.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's actually behind the Venetian.
Venetian.
That's going to be cool too.
All right, so let's talk about one of the big topics that are taking place right now in regards to, I know it's a big topic in regards to use of force and police in Michigan. And what's great is that even though we're both, retired police officers, Beja, would be really good to examine
legal, medical, and marketing experience. I could give my little input.
I want to give you input. So what we're going to do right now is that we're going to actually play, which is, I haven't been watching TV the last few days, been busy with the kids, but we're going to play the incident that took place in Michigan. And I guess there's been a lot of situation going on with use of force. This is the newest one in general. So of course people are upset when someone gets killed and shot by the police. And, definitely there's a concern for anybody. We're going to play the video. Beja, I think this is the first time we're doing this here with you as well. We're going to watch a TV screen. I want you to watch what took place, and then I want you to critique like what you think should have been done, you think is good, bad, and ugly. Of course, someone passed away, so it's not a good situation.
Okay. Let's watch it.
So, Chase, whenever you're ready.
Graphic videos released late today showing the deadly police shooting of a black man following a traffic stop in Michigan. Video now showing an officer on top of the driver during a struggle. The officer then pulling out his gun and firing. Here's Steve Osunsami.
Stay in the car! Stay in the car!
Police in Grand Rapids, Michigan, who've been accused of hiding details in this case, say tonight they're sharing all the video they have.
No. Stop. Put your hands right here.
The video from the officer's body camera and dash camera, from a cell phone and from a security camera recording from across the street, all show the moment when the unidentified officer pulls over 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya in the morning of April 4th. What started with a license plate that wasn't registered to the vehicle turned into a struggle when the 26-year-old tried to run and then fought with this police officer in front of witnesses and cameras.
Stop. Okay.
You see them struggle over the officer's stun gun even as the officer fires it. In the last few moments, the officer is on top of the man and then pulls out his gun and fires.
Drop taser!
The police chief confirmed today that his officer shot the young man in the head and says he's not identifying the officer since he hasn't been charged.
There is an entire investigation being conducted by the Michigan State Police, which I do not have access to by design for conflict of interest.
The attorney for the victim's family says he was an African immigrant who was confused by the encounter and terrified for his life. We demand that the officer who killed Patrick not only be terminated, but be arrested and prosecuted. Police say the officer is a 7-year veteran of the Grand Rapids Police Force. He is on paid leave tonight. Attorneys for the victim's family speak tomorrow. David?
Steve Osunsami tonight. Thank you, Steve.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
Okay, so there's the video. Basically, Grand Rapids, Michigan, veteran 7-year police officer pulls over a gentleman, and again, it was what was the license plate? It was just that it was
a bad plate. I think the wrong plate on the car or something like that. Yeah.
So, Beja, what are your thoughts as a citizen with no police experience? What's your take on this whole situation? Just give us your personal opinion. It could be anything, you know?
It's such a sensitive subject, honestly. It's really hard. I think...
It really is. And that's tough watching.
I believe that the person should at least have tried to comply. But I do know that since he's an African male, you know, Black American male, the news and everything, they kind of fear for their life anyways. So him kind of being fearful and not knowing what to do, I kind of understand that. But first and foremost, when an officer pulls you over, answer questions, comply, maybe try not to run. I don't know.
No, it's not about knowing.
You're right.
It's not about knowing. It's about what your opinion is, right?
It's just
you don't have to know in general. So what's your take in regards to, you know, him resisting and then, you know, them winding up on the grass? What's your take with that? Again, this is all you're not trained. You don't go through.
I don't know.
Training.
They tumbled for so long. For what?
They tumbled for, I don't know, a few minutes.
Yeah.
So you tried tasing him.
Mm-hmm. And then him, I guess, trying to go for his weapon was not the smartest idea either.
Okay.
What do you think, Danny?
I think here's my whole thing on it, and it was hard to watch. I agree, you know, and shooting somebody in the back of the head definitely has people.
I did not see that.
Yeah, he shot him in the head.
They didn't show that on the TV.
Yeah, they didn't show that on TV, but he does. He shoots him in the head. If you hear the last thing the officer says in that video, he says, "Drop the taser. Drop the taser." We are taught that, and I've said this before, we are taught if they take our pepper spray or our taser, that we could use deadly force. The reason is, if they pepper spray us or they tase us, they could take our weapon and kill us. So that's why he was yelling, "Drop the taser," because we are taught that in use of force training, that if they take your taser, we could use deadly force.
Do you think he could have shot him somewhere else other than the head?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say that. I mean, especially, like, let me say, on the ground there, they're fighting for the gun. Maybe he could have shot him somewhere else. But in live, like if Dave was 2-3 feet away from me, you never aim at a small target. You aim at the big target. Because if I missed that target, I could hit an innocent person. So we are taught to shoot at the biggest part of the target because we don't want to hurt an innocent person. So if we shoot at Dave's arm, I'm less likely to hit Dave's arm than I am in his chest. So I'm responsible for that bullet. So if that bullet goes skipping across the street and hits an innocent kid in the playground, I'm in trouble for it. So as cops, we are taught center mass. That's where we shoot, right here.
Our heads are smaller than our bodies.
Yes, I understand that. And if I look here, I think the way I looked before, and they cut the video out. I didn't see where he actually shot him, but it looked like he shot him back here. In, you know, the back part of the neck. That's what it looked like to me. I think that's the only place you could shoot him at that point. I think you're wrestling for a gun. You're wrestling for your life. It went on for 20 minutes. My thing is, and we were talking before the podcast, why didn't somebody help the cop? Instead of filming it, why don't you help the cop handcuff the guy and the incident's over?
That's a big thing, too. Everybody loves to pull their cameras out, but not actually get involved and try to help.
I agree. So my thing is, you know, instead of videotaping it, help the cop. Get him handcuffed and it's over with. But the biggest thing is, comply.
So what should you be doing? What's your take on, you know, for the commuting? Well, let me ask you a question. So if you get stopped by the police, you know, what do you do? I mean, are you afraid, or are you like, what's your feeling? If someone pulls you over and says license, registration, insurance?
Well, if I get pulled over, I'm pulling out my license and registration.
Okay. Even if what happens, you're upset with you know, do you normally ask the officer, like, what did you do? Will you say, "Hey, I'm sorry, officer"?
If I'm speeding, I know what I'm doing. Other than that, yeah, I am gonna ask. I'm gonna say,
like, will you admit to, like, "Hey, I'm sorry, officer, I was speeding"? Like, would you say that?
It depends on my attitude, I guess.
No, but would you admit to speeding?
Yes.
You would.
I would say, hey, is that not the right thing to do? Please let me know.
No, I want to. The goal
Hey,
is to
officer,
hear what
you know what? I was
say.
going with the flow of traffic. Okay. Didn't realize how fast.
That's
I
like
was
saying,
going.
if everybody was beating people up, would you beat people up because you're just going with the flow of everybody else?
That is not the same.
Well, the bottom line is if everyone's speeding, the goal is that you shouldn't be speeding too. When people say I was going with the flow of traffic, but the bottom line is that you're still breaking the law. So you right? So to saying that to an officer, that's like saying, well, just because everybody else is doing it.
So just like admitted guilt there.
Well, the truth of the matter is, I don't think you should.
Don't you have a video on TikTok that says, "Hey, first thing you should do"?
That's my video. But the bottom line is, you shouldn't be. You should be. What I'm saying is, look, even though as a retired police officer, you shouldn't be admitting guilt to a police officer. Like, why would you admit guilt? Because then you're definitely gonna get the ticket.
They got it. I mean, they.
How do you know what the reason why they pulled you over? Maybe they just want to say hello.
Yeah.
Say hello. I'm just stopping you. I just want to see if you're okay today, Beja.
I just don't. I'm just saying, in that situation where I know I'm
honest
speeding,
person.
Okay,
That's what it is,
I just
right?
know
So honest.
She's honest.
There is
She's like,
no
the
other
body's
reason.
in the trunk. I just.
There is no other reason. Okay, for them to be pulling me over.
She's like, I'm just. Okay, so let's talk about one topic. It'll be very interesting. We'll see what Danny says too. First of all, if anyone like pulls you over, right? A lot of officers will say, if an officer pulls you over and they say to you, do you know why I pulled you over? Now, first of all, what's your take on that, Danny, being a cop for 27 years? Do you believe a cop should ask the person, do you know why I pulled you over?
Help a citizen out.
Because we could be different in regards to it. Do you believe in asking that question?
I don't think I've ever asked that question. I just said license and registration, but I was.
Do you tell them why you're being pulled over?
Yeah, I would pull you over. Ma'am, can I see your driver's license registration? The reason I'm pulling you over today, it's a 55-mile speed zone, and you were doing 70. Did you realize you were going that fast, ma'am?
No.
Okay.
Is your speedometer correct? Maybe your speedometer's off.
Like,
Have you had that
maybe yours
calibrated?
is. No.
She's like, officer, I'm just following the flow of traffic. That's her answer. I'm just following the flow of traffic. All right, so here's the story.
All right.
For my training experience,
all right,
when you pull someone over, no officer should ever say, do you know why I pulled you over? Because if I just killed somebody and they're in the back of the, in the trunk, then I'm going to wind up killing the officer because he knows the reason why I pulled him over. So with
but
my,
he doesn't. That's why he's asking.
But with my, no, because if you commit any crime and you're the driver of a car, if you get pulled over, you think that that's the reason why you're being pulled over is because you just committed a crime and the cop caught me. So the cop just caught me killing somebody or robbing a bank or doing something illegal, right? So the bad person or the person that made a mistake or the bad person, whatever you want to be, is thinking that the reason why I'm being pulled over is because they figured out that I did something wrong illegally. So when a police officer pulls someone over, they should say, I'm Officer Kohlmeyer. The reason why I'm pulling you over, is because you went through a red light. Can I please get your license, registration, insurance? I'll get you out of here in a quick minute. Now, the person, if he did commit a crime, you're actually making it a little bit safe for the officer because he's like, wow, they don't know I just killed somebody and he's in my trunk. And I'm just going to get a ticket for a red light. The officer must not know that I just killed somebody. So I won't try to kill the officer because he's just going to give me a ticket and I'm hopefully be on my way. So the goal is to never, ever really ask the person. Now, a lot of cops do that.
Right.
I think it's very wrong because they're jeopardizing themselves for getting hurt because if you just committed a crime, you're going to want to hurt the officer. So the goal is to never really ask that. Anyway, long story short, the goal is to just give you license, registration, insurance. Whatever they want to do, they want to give you a ticket, whatever it may be, fine. You take the ticket and you go and you get it handled. But you shouldn't really have that much conversation with a police officer and you shouldn't be admitting any type of guilt. You don't know if you were speeding or not. And by saying you're going with the flow of traffic, what happens to the flow of traffic? Everyone was doing 120 miles per hour. You're basically admitting that you're doing what everybody else is doing. Maybe he wound up catching you. You should never admit any type of guilt. He gives you a ticket, it's a ticket. It is what it is. You handle the ticket later. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to go off on the cop. You don't need to talk about use of force in Michigan or other states, right? Just take your ticket. Thank you, officer. And we don't have to say thank you. Just, okay, thanks, officer. And then deal with the ticket. Like, you don't have to be in confrontation. The ticket is not stating that you're guilty. It's just a promise to appear. So a promise to be the good. So you may be unhappy with it. You may dislike it. But to argue with the cop on the side of the road with him having a firearm on his hip is not the place to basically be doing that.
Right.
So with that being said, okay, so you saying all of that, do you think that the man that got shot was guilty of something else?
So again, the problem is we don't know right now. We get limited information. We don't know if that car was stolen or if he put a license plate on top of another car where he's trying to, conceal the fact that the car is not insured and registered, which is very common. People want to drive a car, they check another plate. Some people as well, you probably don't know this, that if it's, let's say, a black Honda if I want to go like commit a crime, I'll go get another plate. That plate may be valid until someone figures out that the plate's stolen. And then they'll use that plate to drive around because if a cop runs the plate, comes back valid. What they also will do is they'll try to find the car that's similar to the same car. So if they're driving a Honda, they'll go get a stolen Honda plate because a lot of times the color doesn't come up. I'm not sure in Pennsylvania. Like sometimes the color comes up.
Right. It does. Yeah.
It does. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes people change the color of the car.
Sure.
So, and then sometimes they don't notify DMV that they changed the color of the car as well. But what I'm trying to say is people that are about to commit crimes, they will change plates. So it's very common for criminal activity. So we don't know really what he was doing. We don't know that, there's no insurance, no registration, and he's just changing the plate. But it's definitely not a good situation, with him fighting with the officer. So we just don't know really it's definitely a sad and tragic event of what took place, but we really don't know what he was trying to do.
Right. And I think the biggest thing is I think the media portrays this as you don't have to give your license to the police. You do have to give your license to the police. I don't know whoever told people that, but you do have to show identification. And that seems like the biggest thing. I don't have to show you anything. Yes, you do. I don't know where people come up with that.
There's
and that starts the problem, right?
And you have to abide by the laws, and that's definitely a law.
Exactly. I mean, give your license. And listen, is there cops? Could you be not guilty of a traffic ticket? Sure. What you do is say, officer, I don't agree with this, and I'm going to have to take this to court, and that's your right. You don't fight about that ticket at the scene. It just makes things worse.
Being transparent as possible,
right,
is the best thing to do, I believe.
Yes.
And then even if you are guilty of something, hey, well, that's what we have attorneys for, and anything you say and what do you do and say will be used against you. I don't know the spiel, but okay. And in the court of law, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, keep your mouth shut.
Listen, I heard one attorney say this, a defense attorney, and I'm sure Dave heard this too. Mm-hmm. A defense attorney once said, don't try to get out of a misdemeanor by committing a felony. And that's what's going on.
Right.
A ticket is a summary misdemeanor offense. It's nothing. You're paying a fine. Why make it a felony when you try to take the cop's gun? It makes no sense.
Hold on. Okay.
Right.
So other than trying to take a cop's gun, which is, I believe,
not a good situation.
Please, everybody, please stop doing that. Stop trying to do that. It's never going to work out in your favor.
They were just trying to get a gift from the traffic stop.
No.
They wanted to get what do you call that? I was just going to get a gift from when you go away on vacation. You get a souvenir.
Souvenir
from the traffic stop.
From the traffic stop, yeah, no.
That's what serial killers do.
So we talked about this last time in this podcast about police interrogating people. I mean, even to the point where somebody had committed suicide because they weren't sure. I mean, they just didn't want to get themselves in more trouble, I guess, in that situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was like they were basically dead. So that's why they killed themselves, right?
Right.
So what about police officers using their tactics and little interrogation kind of methods to get something out of someone, and somebody knows their rights and they still kind of fight with that person?
Right.
And with the person, what do you call them? The citizen.
The suspect.
The suspect, whatever.
You know what? I actually love that question because interrogation, I was actually very good at it. Okay. But here's the thing. If I'm interviewing you, okay, hey, Beja, hey, take a seat here. Listen, you're free to go. There's the door right there. You don't have to be here.
I would get up and leave.
Right. And that's why we say that. Because if you come in and I say to you, hey, Beja, there's the door. You're free to go. You're not under arrest. Okay. And then I would read you your rights. Okay. And then you have the right to say, I want an attorney at this point. I don't want to talk to you. But I'm going to tell you, and Dave's going to tell you, 95% of the people will come in and talk to you because they think they could outsmart the police. That's the truth. 95% of the people will not waive their rights and will talk to you because they think they could outsmart you.
Or they think they're faster so they could pull their gun and draw on them quicker, or what?
I just think people think they could outsmart the police. And when you come in for an interview, the police are ready. If you're bringing in for an interview, the police already know what you did. Mm-hmm. They already know what you did. They know how you did it. They just wanted to get you to say it. And that's the truth. Am I right, Dave?
Is there a statistic on how many people actually sit and stay rather than leave through the front door?
I could tell you that I was a detective for 14 years. Mm-hmm. And I think I've only ever had one person get up and leave. I think one ever.
Nuts.
One ever. What about you, Dave?
Most of the people, they think they can, sell you on that they didn't do something, you know. But
even when you show them the front door, like, hey, you can leave now.
The longer that you talk to them, basically eventually people give things up. And that's the reason why, even as a retired cop, even though I'm a lawyer advocate, I always believe that you always should have an attorney when the government has an attorney, which happens to be a police officer, if they're investigating anything in general.
Right.
Which I will want to, it's funny, I'm going to turn a thing, something happened recently to someone I know last night, which is very interesting when you talk about having a lawyer in general. If there's a police officer at your door, look, we're pro-police for the fact that we were police officers, but I still believe that people have rights, and I'm not, of course, the situation, I wouldn't want this person to pass away, and it's a bad situation. The officer's on paid leave, he's going to have a hard time in general. None of it's a good situation. But there was a situation last night where basically a police officer went to someone's home, knocked on the door. They had one of those doorbell things, where the video cameras in general. And they said, hey, do you mind if you come to the front of the house? We just want to talk with you real quick. And it was 11 o'clock at night. What would you do if a police officer rang your doorbell at 11 o'clock at night? Would you go to the door? Would you talk? What do you call the cameras? The
body cam? The ring?
The ring camera?
The ring. Yeah. Everyone's on the ring camera now, right? So he's talking to the cop on the ring camera, and he's like, can you come to the door? He's like, he basically saying, look, I'm in my pajamas right now. Like, I don't want to come to the door. Everyone's like talking to the cops now through Ring, which is funny because this is
what are they there for?
They just come. They just knock on the door. They say, we want to talk with you. We just need 3 minutes of your time. Just a quick issue. Can you come to the front of the door?
Can you answer my question and tell me what you're here for?
Yeah, I'm just here for a community issue nearby.
Oh, yeah? What kind of community issue? You want to interview me? I'm going to interview as much as you're interviewing me. Because why are you showing up at my door at 11?
So the person didn't go to the door in general. And I said the same thing. Like, so what happened was there was an issue with their neighbor. A neighbor issue must have called in and complained. Gotcha. And cop rang the doorbell. But the cop who was on the camera, you watched the camera. And, I actually thought
there was an incident that happened with a neighbor. Like, it's so easy to be,
Because I think what happens if the problem is with the police officer, they're trying to get you to come to the front door to talk about it because it's easy if the door is open to talk with you, right? Just like we're saying.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is the person said, look, I don't want to come to the door, and they didn't go to the door. But to me, it was a smart thing because you don't know what the officer exactly what you're saying.
And they didn't get in trouble for it.
They didn't get in trouble. They just spoke on the through the camera situation. That was basically it. But what I'm saying is I think that no matter what, like you could always tell an officer to leave a business card. I can call you back, or I can meet you during normal business hours, right? Leave a card at the door. Also, these days in the cameras, you may not even be home, right? You could be in Hawaii and looking through your Ring doorbell camera and just talk with them another time. Or you could say, look, I'll have my attorney give you a call. Like, you don't know what the situation may be.
Right.
But anytime what I'm saying is that you don't need to go into a whole conversation about things. In this situation in Michigan with the shooting, you can just give license, registration, insurance, whatever happens. But it's perfect. The whole point is not to get yourself in a worse situation. Here in Michigan, the guy loses his life, and then it's just a bad situation, for the officer and for the community. But I think that people just need to be a little bit more compliant. But you don't have to have a major conversation with the officer. You could just give limited information, and it is what it is. And even if he got arrested, I'm sure that he'll get out anyway. These days, most of the people are getting out in regards to bail reform.
Yeah, he wouldn't even have went. He probably just got paperwork and left.
He would have got tickets, right?
Yeah, he would have just left the scene. It would have been nothing.
And that's what really is sad to me, honestly, is anybody that just tries to put up a fight. You know, because you're going to lose that fight.
And I think I did a TikTok video this week on that 9 times out of 10, the cop's going to win that fight. And the reason is he's trained. We trained weekly on how to defend yourself. So we know how to defend ourselves. We've went over every situation. So no matter how you attack us, we know how to defend ourselves. I know how to defend myself, even if my right hand, I'm right-handed. If my right hand shot, I could still put a bullet in my gun with my left hand, shoot with my left hand. We're trained for everything. So I tell people, when you attack the trained guy, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose.
Or trying to get in a shootout with the police.
Yes, you're going to lose. 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
So, Danny, explain to us how it would work anywhere in the United States. If someone gets pulled over and you're upset about the officer, his behavior, you feel he's racist, he's discriminating, how does the process work? So you should just take the ticket, right?
You should take the ticket.
And then what do you do? What do you do next?
What?
Police officers.
That are bad? Of course. I admit that. I admit that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
And answer that.
We had Internal Affairs. I'm assuming you had. We didn't call it Internal Affairs. We called it Office of Professional Responsibility. So what we did is, say I pulled you over, Beja, and you said, hey, I want to make a complaint, blah, 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 blah. I want to see your supervisor. And you'd say, no problem. I would probably call my supervisor. He would give you the card for our Office of Professional Responsibility. You show up, and we would have a form for
A
you.
sheriff shows up.
No.
Wait, can't somebody show up in the moment, like at that scene? If you ask for somebody else.
Yeah, a supervisor could show up.
supervisor
Yeah, a
shows up.
supervisor could show up, but then we would have you come to the office to fill out paperwork.
Okay.
Okay, and it would be a paperwork saying that the officer did this, and we actually had you notarize it. Because if you notarize it, then we know you're serious.
Right.
So you went there, you had it notarized, and you're serious, this complaint happened. Some people say, well, I'm not going to notarize it. You know what I mean? That makes me think
Does
it
the
didn't
body
happen.
cam make it serious too?
Yeah, the body camera helps. I'll be honest with you. I was a cop early on. Okay, I like the body cameras. I wish I had them my whole career because I didn't feel I ever did anything wrong. The body camera would protect me. So I'm 100% for body cameras, 100%. So. But that's what we would do in our police department. You would have to fill this form out, then the Office of Professional Responsibility would investigate the incident.
So the bottom line is for anyone that's out there, if you got a ticket and you feel for some reason it was unbecoming of an officer or discrimination, whatever it is, they can take the ticket, which they'll have a court date to go to court. But if they want to basically make a complaint, at least here locally, they can go ask what?
For a supervisor.
No. So if you wanted to ask for a supervisor, that's one thing. But the truth of the matter is,
you don't have to, right?
You don't have to ask for a supervisor because you're on the side of the road. There's no reason to wait that long. A lot of people say ask for a supervisor. You could be on the road for 15, 20 minutes waiting. A lot of people say, I want to see your supervisor. They don't need to get a supervisor to basically give out a traffic ticket. Now,
I agree.
You can make a
Depending on the
complaint.
situation.
Well, what happens is if you're in the middle of the road, when the 15, a supervisor could be an hour away. So you're not going to always have the luxury of having a supervisor. You take the ticket, you leave, and then you will find out how to make an internal affairs complaint against the officer. But just because you say I want a supervisor doesn't mean that a supervisor will show up. Because right now everybody on TV and YouTube is like, I want to speak to your supervisor. Like just because you say I want to speak to you doesn't mean that investigation stops.
Right.
Now, yes, they can call out the supervisors available, but you could be on the 15 highway going upstate. A supervisor could be an hour and a half away. Like you just don't know. So you don't need to be asking for a supervisor because especially these days everything's on camera. You can call internal affairs, whatever you have his information. You know the officer's name, you know his badge number, you have everything that's there. You have the ticket number. So long story short, you go to internal affairs and you make a complaint of whatever the situation may be, and then they can get the camera, from the whether it's a dash cam or whether it's the camera on the officer, and they could review it to see whether or not the officer did anything wrong. But you don't need to be sitting on the side of the road asking for a supervisor. You can make a complaint later, especially everybody these days has a camera.
Right.
Sorry, you brought
Anything
up the
else?
whole racism part, so I'm thinking what if somebody felt like their life was in danger? Can they call and ask for a supervisor? I guess that's where I was going with that.
I mean, if you're just getting a ticket, you could always ask for a supervisor. Doesn't mean that one's available. But, the bottom line, doesn't matter what race you are. If you're getting a ticket, you get a ticket and you leave, right? That's the whole ticket is showing up to court. You can fight that ticket. But the whole point is if you get arrested and you want to speak to a supervisor, you'll get a supervisor, at the jail.
Yeah.
At the jail, they're not going to wait there. If you basically did something wrong, you're going to get arrested. There's probable cause to believe that you committed a crime. You're going to wind up going to jail. A supervisor can come there. But it doesn't make a difference really in regards to the supervisor unless it's something, really different. If you committed a crime and the officer has probable cause to arrest you, you could ask to speak to a supervisor there or at court. You could explain your situation. Again, the goal is to make an internal affairs complaint not on the side of the road. Just take the ticket and then make a complaint later.
Yes.
Instead of fighting with the cop and losing your life, on someone's yard.
Right.
And that's how simple it works.
And here's the thing with resist and arrest. I don't know the laws here in Nevada, but in Pennsylvania, you cannot even resist an unlawful arrest. So let me put it this way. A suspect looks like you and I'm driving down the road and I say, hey, that's her right there. And I pull over and I go to arrest Beja for armed robbery because you fit the description.
And I'm like, why are you touching me?
Yes.
Why are you grabbing
me?
me?
And you start resisting arrest, you can't even resist an unlawful arrest, if that makes sense for an officer. Because I
comply, comply.
Yeah, and I told my kids that. My kids were like, Dad, I have young daughters. They were like, Dad, what if I got pulled over and they said I did a crime, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, you go with the officer. They're going to find out you didn't. Just comply, and they're going to find out it wasn't you. Just comply at that point. Don't put your life in danger. And I think the media plays all of this, and it gives people bad ideas when they're pulled over by the police. I believe the media has fault in this. I 100% believe the media's fault in this.
Because it's only, 2% that actually gets shown on the media on... Gosh, I wish I...
I have all the
thought-
statistics for police shootings. Yeah,
yes,
I do.
But out of so many that happen, they like to blast like
Right.
the 2%.
Oh yeah, like we talked before. There's 10
Yeah,
million
right, we talked
calls
about
the
this
police
before.
officers go on, and out of 10 million, 20 go bad, 25 go bad. That shows how trained our police officers really are. And I feel we're trained very well, especially more than when I first became a cop. When I became a cop in the 80s, we weren't trained really well. I'm going to be honest with you. We are trained way better now. Way better. Would you agree, Dave?
Yeah, I mean,
Do
definitely
you
training.
constantly get trained? Like,
Yes.
Like after what, every year or every two? Or?
I don't know what Nevada was, or Dave was NYPD. In Pennsylvania, we had to get retrained every year, and we had to pass 3 tests every year. So every year we had to go back to class for a week and then retake 3. We might take a test on crime, traffic, case laws, stuff like that.
That's good.
The bottom line is,
extent.
I mean, every police agency is different depending, what state, but there's always different training that they have to follow. And again, if there's an issue in regards to it, I mean, you could always bring up whether it's a training issue. That's one of the biggest things that I would say here in general, like, for things in the past that have taken place, the big issues of news, we could always go back to training, right? Like people always want to say why police officers shoot like center mass or a headshot. In this particular situation, if this officer can articulate that this person was going for his taser or going for his firearm, then he's allowed to use deadly force. And as you can see in the video, he was trying to stop the guy. Now, of course, I'm sure that guy could be scared. There's a police officer, there's a guy with the gun, but maybe if he would have just stayed in the car or was compliant. But I understand that people come from different countries. Maybe the guy was from another country, from Europe or Africa or from any country. And maybe police are not on the up and up in regards to like really, really corrupt in other countries.
Right.
Like in Africa or Mexico, certain places, no offense to these countries. But sometimes these police officers are not trained or they're paid very low, where it leads to corruption that you want to be careful in those countries, which I'm sure if you were in those countries, you may not act that way either.
Right.
If you think that the guy is going to take your life. So the bottom line is, in this situation, the officer, I'm assuming, is going to articulate. He was fighting with the guy for a while. He wasn't able to.
Do we know if he spoke English?
I'm not sure. I don't think they said or not. But, Dave brought up a good point, because as an officer, sometimes things aren't obvious, okay? I got called one day, and you just reminded me of that, not speaking a different language, but I actually got called one day to a big, huge fight that there might have been a stabbing. I show up, this guy has his back turned to me. I'm like, show me your hands, because I don't know who's doing the stabbing. I'm like, show me your hands. He wouldn't do it. His back was turned to me. Finally, I realized
he was deaf.
I
was just going to bring up that situation.
And thank God I realized that. Thank God I realized something's not right here, and I realized the man was deaf. When he turned around, he was able to read my lips, and he was not the suspect. But there's things that happen. I mean, what's the odds of that happening? But if I wasn't a veteran cop, who the heck knows what happens there? I'm not blaming the rookie cops, but a lot of times it is the rookie cops that do the shootings. I mean, he could have... the officer would have been justified pulling his gun, and everything, because he wouldn't show me my hands. But here he couldn't hear me. And it wasn't his fault.
And you just reminded me of a situation that I was in as well, with a deaf guy that, I know he was just doing what he wasn't supposed to be doing. And a police officer had rolled up, and the police officer was speaking through his microphone, whatever you call it, and yelling out at him, like, drop what you have, drop what you have. And he just kept walking. And I felt like it was... if he didn't drop what he had, then it would have been bad. So I immediately ran and was like, hey, he's deaf, he cannot hear.
Awesome.
So
I'm glad you did that.
Danny, I'm not sure you know this, but she actually can sign.
My mom's deaf. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that at all.
I'm considered a CODA, which is a child of a deaf advocate.
Oh, okay.
Cool. My daughter knows sign language as well. We're all fluent in
Awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is amazing.
It's kind of her special ability. And no, it's amazing. I'm not even joking around. I'm
along
serious.
with my other special abilities.
I wanted to bring it up because it is a problem, right? If you pull someone over and they can't speak or hear or whatever the situation be, they've had different incidences over the last 20 years.
Do you guys feel like you're so fearful for your own lives, or what, that you feel like you can't thoroughly, or do you feel like police officers can't thoroughly investigate a situation or kind of find out exactly what's going on?
What do you mean by that? Like what?
I don't know. I feel like sometimes maybe we just watch, especially on the news,
right?
Okay, that they're quick to react instead of
police officers. You mean?
Yes.
Quick to react. I think it's put in our heads every day. Dave will tell you too that
Sorry,
protect
as you guys. I meant just as
cops in general.
cops
Yeah.
in general.
Like
Yeah.
it's put in our minds every day, protect your life, protect your life. They'll tell you, do this so you don't put your life in danger. Do this because you won't put your life in
Right.
danger. And listen, if you are, and you could put your other officers' lives in danger. So that's big. Dave will tell you that. If you put another officer's life in danger, you're going to hear about it. Right? Am I right? When you get back to the station, they're going to say, hey, you put my life in danger by doing that. Don't do that again. So we have a thing. Yeah. So, is something bad going to happen every night? Probably not. But you got to be prepared when it happens, because sooner or later, it's going to happen. I mean, in my career of 27 years, I was held hostage twice. Okay, once when I was undercover selling drugs. Well, I wasn't selling drugs; I was buying drugs, I should say. I was held hostage actually on 2 separate occasions, and then I was shot at. A bullet went above my head, and a guy tried to stab me. So that's just the incidents that I had. I was telling Dave before this incident, thank God, I never had to shoot anybody, but I have been to officer shootings. I
was gonna say that all happened in one day.
No.
I mean, most officers don't even use their firearm in 20 years,
right?
Which is the average, time that the person's a police officer. Danny's records, he did 27 years. I'm basically 17 years. 20 years is kind of the standard most people do. But anyway,
so me and you almost 47 years, and we never shot anybody. 2 of us.
So it is rare. This guy with 7 years. I mean, unless someone has like multiple shootings that took place, and then maybe something that they need to look into. But on a whole, I mean, these days you have video. Like before, there was no video. They could say, "Why does this guy keep getting involved in shootings?"
Right
now, you have the video. You see this guy basically not being compliant. Like I said, it's a sad situation, but if he was compliant, and then this is going to be the other side. Like, he was afraid for his life. He was scared. But so what does it mean that we don't have the police out there in general? I mean, do we not have police, in uniform driving around? It's also different if it was like an undercover officer that came out that, he's in uniform. He's got a badge on. I mean, if you're in America, you know what a police officer is there. Now, but here's a good question for you. So if you said, hey, if I'm not sure if it's a real officer and I was being pulled over, because there are cases with impersonating an officer. So if it's 10 o'clock at night and someone's behind you and it's an unmarked car with a light on, what should you do? This is the question for Beja. You're driving, you're on the 215, you're passing, you're about to come up to Green Valley Parkway. There's a Green Valley Station Casino that's pulling up. Yeah, this happens.
Yes, this happens.
So what should you do if you're not? Right now, you never knew this happened, right?
Okay, but
what should you do?
But like red, like the
lights are on,
everything,
and it's like a white car, but you don't see any type of markings. So it's like an
undercover car or something.
Well, it's weird. Undercover really wouldn't have lights, but it's kind of like partial because they're trying. It depends, right? They could be a light bar, they could be a light inside the front. So let's say there's just a light in the front, like a red light.
What does the guy look like? Is he wearing a badge and stuff?
Let's say he's plain clothes. He's in plain clothes. He's walking up to the. Well, let's just say he's driving. Let's give you the scenario. He's just driving. He puts on the red light, and you just don't feel that it's a police officer. What should you do?
Man,
that's a tough one, right?
That's a tough one.
You're being pulled over right now. What are you supposed to be doing?
I'm like, I don't know who you are, and I'm probably just gonna drive slow and turn my blinkers on and start honking to get all kind of attention, just to draw attention to me.
So, Danny,
I don't know what I'm doing.
What would be your answer out here for
I
Vegas?
didn't even know that was a thing.
I'm gonna say if Beja was my daughter or my girlfriend or something like this is what I would tell them. I would tell them, listen, if you don't think it's a cop, I would drive very slow. I wouldn't like speed or anything. I'd put my hazard lights on, drive real slow, and pull into like a lighted Walmart parking lot or something very busy. And then I would call 911 and say, I'm being pulled over by a police officer, but I'm not sure it's a police officer. That's what I would do.
I had the first.
Because you know what? This has happened in my jurisdiction. We had a guy that bought like at an auction, an old unmarked police car. He put a fake light and he was pulling girls over for it.
Wow.
So it is a scary thing. That's what that's what I would tell my family. My family would be, I put my hazard lights on, so I know the cop's there. Go very slow, call 911, say, hey, I'm getting pulled over, but I'm not sure it's a police officer. I'm going to pull over to the first lighted spot. What do you think, Dave, about
that? My ticket for Vegas is a little bit different. So where he's from, Pennsylvania, is a little bit different. But here, if you're on a highway, what would you say, Beja, is what's like open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where there's a lot of lighting that's in Vegas? Trick question.
A gas station?
Actually, I wasn't thinking she would say that. But gas station's okay. But now, what's another place?
A valet.
A valet.
Where there's a ton of cameras.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
So what I would do is I agree with.
Anywhere where I know that there's going to be.
So, but in Vegas, if it's 2 a.m, right?
Right.
A casino valet area is well lit.
PT.
There's valet
tons of
and
plugs
security
on
personnel that are there.
Yeah.
If you go into a gas station, problem is people are not hanging out at the gas station. It's not like a full service gas station where in some states it has to be full service.
New Jersey.
Yeah. So anyway, you pull in. I agree with the hazard lights.
Doesn't matter. The person, if you're pulling into a place like that, the person's not going to mess with you. I don't
To a
think.
gas station? I actually kind of disagree with that because the problem with it is you're not going to have anybody there to like help you because the person is inside the actual
Look,
gas
David,
station.
we know what you would do if you were if the shoe was
So
on
here's-
the other foot.
so here's the story.
But listen,
But this
I
isn't-
don't think if you're anywhere where there's, you know what I mean, traffic lights, gas station, I don't think that
So-
somebody's going to follow you into there and really try to
Abduct you.
abduct
So
you, kidnap you.
So the better place would be the casino. That's what I'm talking about. To make sure that you know, because now
What
we're
if-
educating.
what if you're not on the show?
We're educating the public. No, there's
if
all
you're
local
away?
casinos. There's local casinos all over. There's
Gas
Aliante, there's
station
Green
and
Valley,
plus
there's
people.
Sunset Station. Where do you live? Is the closest casino?
Green Valley.
Green Valley.
I'm blocks from it. Yeah.
Was it Fiesta that's over there? If they reopened, did
Yeah.
it reopen yet or no?
That didn't reopen.
Okay.
no.
So the local casinos or the station casinos are all over the place. Pretty much, you drive with your hazard lights on. You can call 911 or 311 on the phone. You can say, "Look, I believe that there's
Call 911.
an officer that's impersonating." Do you know the difference of 911 and 311? Do you know where they go?
Yes,
When
and
is
if somebody is following you, they're not, call 911.
So if you call
So
311,
we're talking about this.
So if you call 311, do you know where that
non-emergency information.
where does that
stuff.
number go to?
Police station.
And then where does 911 go to?
To a dispatcher that will get you help right away.
So you think that both numbers go to different places?
I believe one is emergency and one is non-emergency. Correct?
So where do they go?
Fuck, Dave. I don't know.
Yes, that's it. The first curse since I've been here. This is good.
Can we get some extra lighting? We need extra lighting on Beja. We need more.
we should have like a little doo-doo-doo, like if we're in
We
a
need more
radio
lighting. Like,
station or
just like,
something. Every
can we
time
get some
somebody says
extra?
a bad word.
We need some extra lighting on Beja. Let's see if we can do it.
Get out of here.
Beja, where were you last night? Where were you?
Talk to me, Dave. Or actually talk to our followers. Talk to
Well,
everybody that's listening.
this is actually a great question, and the reason why I'm questioning you is because it's actually a very good topic to educate you. 911 and 311 go to the same place.
Okay.
There's a dispatcher that's the same. It goes the same thing. It just they pick up
One
911
they
first.
consider a non-emergency, though,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
They
For
pick up
311?
911 first.
Yeah.
They pick up 311 only if there's no one on 911.
Right.
They pick up 311 only if they're busy on 911. But if no one's calling 911, right, then they pick up 311 first. So it's only in regards to priority. It goes to the same dispatcher.
All right. So if it's not 911 or 311, it's for the problem solver. It's what? What is it? What is it?
Well, don't call the problem solver if
Not
you
if
have
you're
an
getting pulled
impersonating
over.
officer.
No, I'm just saying, you
So
know.
it's 999-1111 is the problem solver. You don't call
All right,
that number
all right.
at all if you have an impersonation of an officer and you're driving on the highway
No,
on the 215.
But just saying, you know.
Okay. I appreciate you just saying. But here's the story. So let's just recap. This is a very good topic.
Hey, oh, yeah,
911 and 311, they go to the same place.
Yes.
The same dispatcher, whether it's Henderson,
determine.
Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas, the different cities have different dispatchers. So, of course, if you call 911, so the bottom line is this. If you don't feel it's an emergency, you call 311. If you really feel it's an emergency, you call 911. But it's going to the same
I feel
place.
like that's what I just said. So listen. So
No, but I wanna make
we need
sure
to
it's clear, right, where
we need
it's
to have a
going to the same place.
dispatcher on the
Exactly.
show so they can inform everyone that if it's not an emergency, okay, 311, and then if they feel like less of an emergency that they just need some help, then they call 999.
I can tell you in our police department, police officers actually handled our 911. So our dispatchers were police officers. Okay, so, and it rang differently. If it was a non-emergency, it rang differently. It rang different if it was an emergency. Yes, different. So you knew if it was an emergency or not.
It was a
Do
siren.
that,
It
do
was
that
a
one more
siren
time.
sound.
How did it go?
Do that one more time, and then he'll say 911.
Go ahead. 911, what's your emergency?
Beep. Oh, wait, hold on. Ring, ring, ring.
So
311. Okay, whatever.
So the bottom line is to be very clear, 911 is an emergency, 311 is not an emergency, depending what city. And then this is very interesting. So let's just say you're on the border of Henderson and Vegas. Henderson will say, hold on 1 second. You're on Eastern and Windmill. That's Las Vegas. Let me connect you to Las Vegas Metro. Now, it doesn't help your situation if it's a really dangerous situation that they're changing over. They're actually transferring the call to a different dispatcher because now you are in a different city. You know there's 3 different cities in Vegas, right?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people don't know that. Some people are like, oh,
North
I
Las
see.
Vegas, Vegas, and Henderson. Yeah.
So some people, if you ask, they'll say, what city you live in? They'll go Green Valley. Green Valley's not a city, right?
Summerlin.
Right? They'll say, "Oh, what city do you live in?"
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of these kids think they live in Summerlin like that's a city.
Right.
Summerlin's a master plan community. Green Valley is a master plan community. It is not a city.
So Enterprise is Vegas still, right?
Actually, Enterprise is a city, but most people wouldn't know that.
Really?
The
I
city
didn't
of
know that.
Enterprise, yeah. There's different. The city of Winchester. There's different. If you look it up, there's a little bit. But basically,
Where is
it's,
Winchester again?
you got to look at a map. I mean, it's an area by Las Vegas. It's
Right.
actually by like Charleston and Sahara. There's like a region of it. It's
right.
I don't even,
Really? I didn't even
I
know
look it
that.
up.
seen that,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a
But
city-
that's considered a city.
Yeah, but there are not. There's because it's so small. The different areas of Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, eat up certain areas in general.
But
And
the
is
strips on
Enterprise
Paradise or
even
something,
like
right?
fully
City of Paradise.
built
Yeah.
though? Is there even
Vegas
so how
is the city of
Enterprise
Paradise.
considered
Okay.
Which one?
Enterprise.
I
How is
never
it
even heard of
considered a city?
Enterprise.
There's barely anything like.
You got to look it up. I don't know how it's broken down in general, but
Anyways,
like I said-
You guys get the
Anyway,
point.
the bottom line is
311.
okay. So bottom line is this: you
99911.
drive to a public area where there's people outside.
Yes.
Because if you're being attacked or something's happening to you, and the gas station attendant is inside, he's not coming out.
No.
He's not looking. He's looking at the soda machine and he's cleaning up, inventory there. So you want to go to a place where there's a valet parking and there's people that are there or security personnel. And also there's a lot of cameras. It's well lit, stuff like that. And then you can be on the phone with either 311 or 911, wherever you feel comfortable with, and just say, look, someone's following me. I'm driving this way. I'm not trying to evade the police whatsoever. I'm unsure what's going on. I want to notify you guys. Can you check to see whether or not, and they should know right away, and then they should notify the dispatch will notify the officer, hey, I'm on the phone with the person. They told me that they're not sure who you are and they're driving safely over to Green Valley Ranch Casino, and they will stop in front of security at that location. So long story short, I want you guys to be clear because I think it's a really good topic. I think honestly, people don't talk about it anymore. I think like in schools, they don't even talk about police.
Right.
Like they're just worried about the topic. Like it's like talking about sexuality, right? Transgender
Right.
and male and like I think they don't even talk about it anymore. Like they don't talk about calling the police. They talk about 911.
Right.
And maybe they don't want to confuse kids, but I think it's a topic to understand. 911, 311, dispatch, police. How to they probably should talk about it in school, like how to interact with the police, right?
Right.
Like you just
There's
all
a
right.
lot of things they should teach in school.
I agree.
The problem is a lot of people don't even want to call the police these days, the young kids, because they're afraid. They watch all this stuff in the media.
Right.
So eventually there's going to be more victimization
There
with people.
should definitely be more education on your rights, when not to
Yeah.
call the police, when you should just go down, make a police report instead of having to call them.
Right.
There's a lot going on. Sometimes, I'm sure, how many calls have you guys gotten where it was like, I shouldn't even be here right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to kill snakes, get cats out of tree. I've done all of it.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it should start with school, for sure.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to jump to the last topic. We got about 8-9 minutes left, so I wanted to talk about the other topic that's going on, recently within the news is Twitter with Elon Musk in general. Beja, break down the whole situation with Twitter and the
Go
whole.
ahead. Let's go, Beja.
Beja's going to take lead on this one.
He sold a brick back in the day, or like something
Oh, yeah,
like
I saw that brick today.
that brick.
So
What's going on,
Danny's the man.
Dave? Catch
Danny's the
me
man in the
up.
news. Explain what's going on with Twitter, Elon Musk, and then Beja will share her thoughts as usual.
Oh, did he not just buy? Oh, he bought Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Not the brick.
Yeah. I'm like,
But here's the thing. He bought Twitter for like $42 billion.
right.
Could you imagine having $42 billion?
it's Elon Musk.
Yeah, I know. But here's the problem.
Didn't he go to the moon or some shit like? Or no,
Nah,
he
that
went
was
up in
Bezos.
space.
That was No,
that was-
Musk
no,
went
that
there
was-
too. Yeah,
SpaceX.
yeah, but right, Bezos or whatever his name.
13. So
Bezos,
actually,
Bezos.
Bezos. Yes.
spent more
Bezos.
to get up in
Bezos.
space.
Yeah.
Okay, 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Twitter, they sold out. How did they sell out for that cheap?
Well, here's the big controversy on Twitter right now. The Republicans felt they weren't treated right on Twitter. They were Tucker Carlson got his Twitter taken off him. President Trump got
They
his
always
Twitter,
want to hush
Twitter
us,
taken off
them
him.
up.
So they would cut conservatives out on Twitter. Okay, so
They
Elon
filter
is
every-
more of a conservative. I wouldn't say he's a total conservative, but he is more of a conservative. So now that he bought Twitter, the Democrats, the liberals are saying, oh my God, democracy's over. Elon bought Twitter, democracy's over. My thing is, democracy is free speech. He's going to let us talk more. So how is democracy over? But here's my point. My point is, if You don't like what's said on Twitter. You're an adult. You can decide what's right or what's wrong. Why should we have fact checkers telling us what's right or wrong?
Unfollow.
Yes.
I mean, you choose what you see, everything that you
I don't see
hear.
a problem with him buying Twitter, but everybody else does.
Well, I'm sorry, specifically who again?
The Democrats,
The
liberals.
Democrats. Okay.
I guess here's the question: what is he planning on doing with making it private in general? Like, why are people nervous about it? Democrats are nervous that he's making it private, like it's
Because he's going to let conservatives speak out. Like they quieted conservatives during the election. They got rid of President Trump's Twitter. Could you imagine a president of the United States was not allowed to tweet? Could you imagine? He's president of the United States, can't tweet. Tucker Carlson, his Twitter's gone, right? He can't tweet. Guess what? All their Twitters are back now since he took over. They're back already today.
so everyone's back.
Tucker Carlson's back on, Trump's back
So
on.
he's
they're all back.
allowing everybody to speak.
He's allowing everyone to speak.
So what's the problem?
They don't like that because
They want to censor.
conservatives, liberals want to censor conservatives. Liberals want to say this is this, but if a conservative says no, it's not, they want to censor that conservative. They're for everybody except conservatives. We love everybody. Let's all have this big happy family.
That's pretty dope. I actually like that.
What? Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No.
So I thought Trump said he didn't want to go back on Twitter.
Well, he doesn't.
No,
because
he loves
Trump's-
to fucking talk.
But you know what? Twice? Dude, what's going on?
We're gonna have to
here
take
today?
her to the bathroom and we'll have to rinse her mouth out.
No, what happened
I'm
is
a big girl.
Truth Social is Trump's app now. Did you know that?
Which one? Truth.
Truth Social. Aren't you on that?
And
I'm
I
on
see.
Truth Social. Okay.
Are people
What is
on there?
Truth Social.
It's the number one app right now, Truth Social.
Really?
So Trump owns
Can we
that.
mark it on there?
So Trump does not want to go on Twitter because why should he go on Twitter now when he has his own app? So he's not going to, as a businessman, he's not going to promote
it his
Twitter.
app?
It's his. Truth Social is Trump's Twitter. I mean, it kind of looks like Facebook and it kind of has a Twitter vibe too. It's kind of
There's no like
combination.
orange toupee like on the.
No, that would be great though. That would be great.
Are there that many people on it?
I
haven't
guess so. It's the
followed it.
number one app.
Really?
I mean, Elon Musk admitted that yesterday. Truth Social is the number one app, right?
Wow.
He said that.
Yeah, it's the number one app on Apple right now. Truth Social.
Hold on, let me see.
I swear to you, I ain't lying.
When did it come out? Follow one.
Truth Social came out about 6 months ago. I'd say
Okay.
4 months ago. I was on a waiting list. That's how long it took. I just got back on. I got on 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
the bottom line is that everyone's allowed back on. He's allowing freedom of speech, where before they were censoring different people. But
Right.
you feel for society and the public that people should be censored and say what they want to say,
agree.
unless it's saying something where
I'm gonna bomb.
that it's gonna
kill,
unless
or-
it's like
yeah.
Well, I guess if it's racist
Right.
or religion.
I agree. Religion, racist, violence.
Violence, okay.
Yeah,
Violence,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Then I could see it, you
And
know?
we talked about that.
Yeah. But I mean, just because you have a different opinion than me, why should your opinion be taken down? And that's what Elon's saying. I'm not taking people's opinions down, you know?
But I thought I saw something in the news that maybe that it wasn't going to go through. Is it a done deal?
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
Did it yesterday, yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see the change that he does. I mean, he's a very innovative guy in general. So it'll be interesting to see what he actually does with it in general.
yeah.
I guess it's really it in general. The use of force was a big issue that we wanted to talk about. We talked about Twitter a little bit. Anything else on Twitter you can think of that Truth Social? I really didn't know that, so it's interesting. It'll be interesting. A lot
It's
of
a
users.
new social network app.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the viewers and listeners here. That whether or not they're using Truth Social, it'll be interesting just to see
Yeah.
what's going on with that, and then it'll be interesting to follow up to see what Twitter what he does with it. I know his big thing is the edit button. I guess once you post something, like you can't edit it.
Right.
Right, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Where on Facebook and Instagram, you can go back, you can edit, you delete.
Yeah.
But once you Twitter something, it's out there.
You're done. Yeah. I didn't know that either. Of course I'm not the best speller. So when I misspell something, I want to edit it. But in Twitter, you can't edit anything. I don't like it, to be honest with you. I wish you could.
Yeah,
edit.
sometimes you mess up and you want to go back and change something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I post something and then I want to copy and paste and go back to it and add something, like to add a YouTube video or something like that. So
Yeah.
that feature I think is important, especially
Yeah,
with
to be able to edit.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the story. So we covered these different topics. If there's any viewers and listeners that have certain topics that they want us to talk about in general for the future, let us know. It'll be interesting. They can always on Facebook, YouTube, and all the different social media, the problem solvers out there. 702-999-1111 is the main number if they want to call. There's certain topics. If you have a problem specifically in general,
You can go to the website and
the problem solver Vegas is out there. There's also a QR code, which will later be uploaded as well if you want to scan it and put the app there. But again, if you go to the problemsolver.vegas, it takes you to the instant web app. And then from there, you can add it to your home screen. So if you ever want to, any issues whatsoever that you need help with, again, medical, legal.
Topics you want to hear about.
Topics, anything that we do to help out in the community. So please let us know in general. Again, I am David Kohlmeyer, retired police officer, 17 years. I have Beja and Danny helping me today, co-hosting the show in general, talking about these great topics in general. So if there's any problems in the future that you believe that we can help you with or refer you in the right direction, anything whatsoever in the community of Las Vegas, Henderson, North Las Vegas, and anywhere through the United States, if we can help out whatsoever, please let us know. And otherwise, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Channel 14 is the Problem Solver for community problems and discussing different issues. Otherwise, Thursdays at 4:30, we're live on social media and Facebook. So keep in touch, and we'll see you next week, and be safe.